Well, the priority of businesses across chambers of commerce around the UK is to avoid a messy and disorderly exit from the EU on the 29th of March. That includes never having to use the tariff schedule that was introduced to us today. Obviously, there'll be winners and losers in business almost overnight if that tariff schedule is implemented. And we do have some concerns that some businesses would get an unwelcome shock. We're hoping that can be avoided.
And this tariffs plan was published quite late in the day. What kind of impact is that going to have on businesses?
Well, businesses are already concerned that we're only 16 days away from the UK's scheduled exit date from the European Union, and they still really don't have answers to many of their practical questions around how they're going to trade in future. Yes, they got a tariff schedule today, but they're only now getting more information about procedures around borders, regulations, and so much more besides. There's just not enough time at the moment for businesses to get all the practical answers that they require, and there's a real frustration out there in British business that all of this has been left very late in the day.
Yeah, and then the UK economic forecast that was released today does signal a slowdown, but then an upturn of growth in the economy. How would you categorise that? Because some would say that's vastly optimistic given the uncertainty Britain is facing.
Well, the UK government's forecasts, just like our British Chambers of Commerce forecasts, are based on the prospects of the UK leaving the European Union in a smooth way and not in a messy and disorderly way. We have some real concerns that the UK economy is currently broadly stagnant. A number of our businesses are already reporting to us that their forward orders and their confidence for the future is really not what it could be. And that is, of course, a huge concern. Businesses feel like they're in a bit of a holding pattern, and I think the UK economic growth forecasts reflect that. The notion of a small bounce after a Brexit deal is something that we understand. It's simply because there is so much pent-up decision-making in lots of UK businesses that some businesses will be able to then take decisions. But we do not see that as being either a big bounce or one that is going to deliver a significant boost to the UK economy.
Okay, and finally, I'd like to return to this question of the zero tariffs, and I get from you your understanding of that when it comes to the implications of these zero tariffs on the Irish border.
Yes, the government has announced today that it will have some specific rules in place for the Irish border in order to keep it open. Our Chamber of Business community in Northern Ireland, of course, very much wants that to be the case. But of course there are going to be concerns. As I said, there are winners and losers from the shock introduction, or the swift introduction of a new tariff regime. That won't necessarily affect all businesses across Northern Ireland, but it will affect quite a lot of trade and quite a lot of established trade flows, both between European countries and Northern Ireland, between the United Kingdom and countries around the world, and we do need to take that into account.
Okay, and what about the speculation that the zero tariffs could actually incentivize, I suppose, some sort of contraband across the border? Could we be opening ourselves up to that?
Well, there are a huge number of unanswered questions here. Businesses don't actually want to see this new tariff schedule used because they want to avoid a messy and disorderly exit from the European Union on the 29th of March. That's got to be the top priority right now, to prevent shock changes in trading conditions for some businesses who are affected, and of course to prevent any of the other unintended consequences we might not want to see.